What are you sharing, Gary?
Ooh.
Hey, John, just for awareness, I'm going to be voice only. I'm on the road, and there'll be a point when I get back to my garage where I'll lose signal for a little bit, and then I'll be back on. Just so you're tracking.
Copy that. Thanks for the heads up.
Anytime.
Hey, Mike.
Gary here. For some reason, my camera doesn't seem to be operating.
Yeah.
It might be on my end. I'll monitor it.
Evening, Miranda.
Good evening. Hello, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Right. Jackie and Louise in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not quite to a quorum yet. Sure, I saw that Prescott got officially appointed. So what does that bring us up to? And there's Prescott.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Prescott. Richard, we're at 6. Does that make, are we at a quorum yet? That's 7, actually.
I think Richard's just in management mode.
Sure. Six. Let me go look at the roster real quick. All right, we have 10 official rostered members, so if we're at 6, we have a quorum. Let's get started. Welcome. I'm going to do my best, Frank, tonight. He is on the road. Tonight, we'll call the meeting to order and open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nope. Okay. The vice chair's update is not much. We got some feedback from Arlington County libraries that they are working on identifying an author for our book club. Here's Jim. So that is in work in progress, and I don't really have any other updates. So I think we can move into the main agenda item for tonight. Human-centered design is a topic that I am passionate about spreading the good news on. It's been something I've wanted to bring up for at the Tech Commission for a while. It's not something that government typically does, but it is something that is very common in the commercial space. And so I've asked for Joe Fabre to join us as a human-centered designer I know, and brief the Tech Commission, just generally introduce the topic on human-centered design, because I'm pretty sure not everyone is familiar with it if you haven't been exposed to it. Joe, are you online?
Yes, John, I am. Can you hear me, see me?
I can hear you and see you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to share human-centered design as well. John, I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to have to go off camera when I share. So give me a second. All right.
Great topic, John. I'm glad you're doing this.
I thought you'd like it, Miranda. It's like
Yeah.
it's the only other product person. I think I was telling Frank that I think human-centered design might even work on lawyers. So, and that's good. One admin note while Joe's bringing up his presentation. Prescott, would you mind volunteering taking the notes for this session, taking the meeting minutes as your first session as an official member? A low man on the totem pole duties.
Yeah, sure thing.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that,
That
John.
happened to me too, Prescott.
John, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, let me try this again. Can you let me know when you see my slides?
I can see your screen, your whole screen.
All right, let's present.
And now your slides are taking it up the whole screen.
All right. All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate, again, the opportunity. As John said, I am Joe Fabre. I am a current UX UI designer. That's a user experience, user interface designer with the federal government. I have been so for approximately going over a little 5 years now. Let's see. I have had my experience with human-centered design from my time in the military as a submarine sailor, and a consumer of goods and products. We all have our similar experiences, positive and negative. And we will dive into and explore some of the concepts, the high-level concepts of human-centered design. I want to start off with a kind of an inspirational quote here by Tim Brown. You can't solve a problem for someone you don't understand. This is really the essence of human-centered design, understanding the human, their needs, their pain points. This is really the core of human-centered design. So what is human-centered design? It's a repeatable problem-solving framework. It's going to seek to create services and products that are more effectively and efficiently serving the needs of the users. And I want to make one point. Human and user, there's a definite difference between the human-centered design approach and a user-centered design approach. The human-centered design approach is looking at the holistic perspective of the human, where user-centered design are looking more at granular level task to tasks, activities of a user. Human-centered design starts with people and ends with innovative solutions. Keeping with Tim Brown's quote, you really need to understand those you're trying to reach and design for. HCD is both how you think and what you do with it. Some key importance to human-centered design: user satisfaction, increased adaptation, reduce risk and cost, empathy, inclusion, and innovation. User satisfaction, we want to get the users the highest satisfaction and engagement levels. We want, with that success, we're going to have more users adopt our technologies and solutions. It's going to be more sustainable and word of mouth. Reduce risk and costs. Early understanding of the user needs is crucial. So we test early and often to make sure that we truly understand those requirements, those needs of the users. And please, if anyone has any questions, this is really more of a conversation than a lecture. Empathy and inclusion. We want to make sure that we are capturing the needs of a broad user community of ages, of technology intelligence, to various backgrounds, cultural and custom needs. Innovation, addressing real user needs, definitely pushes designers to think outside the box and create and think of new solutions and technologies to serve our users. Here's some of the phases, and we'll go into this a little bit more. We have a discovery phase where we learn about our customers. We define, once we understand our users, we then ideate, brainstorm. This is where we come up with the solutions. We then take that concept, prototype it, test it with the users. We get feedback, and then we implement the solution. Does anybody have any questions? How we incorporate user-centered design. Oh, I'm sorry, human-centered design, the process is we empathize or discover. We engage the users through interviews, surveys, observations. We get into the user space to understand how they're satisfying a problem without the technology or solution we're trying to develop. We look at their needs, their pain points. We gather all that information as a group. We come back, we synthesize that data or information and look at common themes, common problems, and then we come up with a solution or a statement that we're trying to address. Once we have that problem statement, we start to brainstorm or ideate. This is where we take solutions from the best to the worst ideas. We just throw everything out there. We think, we come up with many ideas, and then we pick the best one, and then we will work to develop that that solution.
It might be interesting if you, sorry, this is Miranda, if you could elaborate a little bit for the group on what makes something the best.
It's a great question. So what we do is when we go engage the users, we listen to their needs, we get their feedback, and we look at the ideas, and we're going to go over a couple case studies, or one case study. But what it does, for example, is what is the best solution? It has to kind of meet the needs of the cross group. It can't meet the needs of one particular group. It satisfies the goals. Can we get a particular task or objective accomplished for our user community. Does that help?
Yeah. Just like that best is often a loaded term that might need a little bit more digging. So thank you.
It
Joe,
is.
And Joe, Jackie's got her hand up. Jackie?
Yes. So I think it would also help, although I think I know what you're talking about, and I think I've even been through this process, if you would give people an idea of what some of the concrete factors are that you look at. So chairs, lighting, sound, kind of what's the universe of things that you're considering in your toolbox that you can adjust.
That's an excellent point. And, from my perspective, and this is great feedback as, developing or creating this PowerPoint, I'm thinking more of IT solutions. So I'm thinking pixels, mouse clicks, keys. But you brought up a great point. When we think about human-centered design or developing for our user base, we have to think about their environment as well. If I were to create access to a community center for to receive information or a presentation, I would want to make sure that there was a ramp for those who have ADA requirement needs. I want to make sure that there's interpreters or sign language interpreters for the deaf. Does that make sense?
So if we're talking mostly about IT, yes. I guess maybe if you could give me an example of the scope of things, concrete examples of what the scope of the palette is you're working with. I mean, are you looking at, do people understand the icons? Or are you looking at screen resolution, speed of download, upload speed, and patience? What kinds of things are you looking at?
That, again, an excellent question. From an IT perspective, well, once we understand our user community, we kind of understand their system needs. Every user or human is going to be operating a different system. Mac versus Windows, there's going to be different. Some people still on dial-up. We have a satellite means of communicating the information. So we take a look at the big swath of the user environment. There could be, again, I said, language barriers. We try to, what we say is communicate at a plain language at a level that's at 10th, 11th grade reading level. So we take those things into consideration. You talked about color and fonts. That we'll want to make sure.
We lost your audio there, Joe.
Hey, this is Noran. So if I could add to it a little bit. So from my perspective with the user experience, customer experience, what you're looking at is like, high level usability, accessibility, as he just talked about, performance, security, consistency, mobile responsiveness, such as mobile apps, any type of personalization and error handling, just along those lines, really high level of what I would think he's probably going to talk towards, at least from my perspective, what we're looking for a user experience or a chief experience officer type role.
Yeah, thanks for that, Norman. And Jackie, from my experience with this, and Miranda, you can pipe in if you please. It depends on the brief, right? You want, there's nothing that's off limits, but you can't look at absolutely everything. So you make a scoping decision when you design the design brief to say, what are we going to look at? And you're trying to understand the things that are most likely going to impact the product or service that you're looking to design.
So the kinds of things that I would find addressed in a usability audit.
Potentially,
yeah. And I think that comes down to where he talked about the discovery phase, where you're targeting your audience. What is the needs of your audience or your users, your customers?
Yeah, I get the targeting, but the targeting is such a broad range, from the person sitting on a chair that's uncomfortable to they can't see with the resolution, and adjusting the resolution, or adjusting the size of the print is difficult, or,
Yeah.
so it's at the level of technical use, and maybe you say you're looking at all of that.
Yeah.
But
So
Jackie, if you roll it back a little bit, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who I'm interrupting here. If you roll it back a little bit, usability is more of a requirement, right? Anything that you build that is to be used by people online needs to be for usability. So that's not really a consideration. That's a must-have. Something that's more of a consideration is if it would be better to communicate in pictures or words, or what elements go on the screen and that type of thing. And it's really, you're starting with the problem statement of, like, people may say, I need a better way to pay for something. But what does that really mean? And how do we make that actually come to life using human-centered design instead of just using whatever comes out of the box with Shopify or another payment processor? I don't know. Does that resonate? John,
yes.
does that sound right to you?
I've used all of these as a manager. I've used all of them. I'm just trying to pinpoint how my language matches yours. So thank you. That's very helpful. That's very helpful.
Right. I think, one thing I appreciate that input. One thing I want to have everyone focus on is, so when we're talking, there's going to be a business requirement. There's also going to be a user requirement, and we're trying to ensure that we capture both of those needs from the stakeholders as well as our end users, the end human user. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Yes. Yes, it does. I mean, I'm working, for example, on a contract right now that's looking at, testing various apps and how they work for different audiences, like people with, vision issues or access, or deaf or colorblind or whatever. Is that an example of things? And also, like, do elderly read, icons? So am I in the right ballpark?
That's in the.
I think so. I think that talks towards the accessibility aspect.
Absolutely. That is, and that's things that we take into consideration. For myself, I was a prior accessibility tester. So as part of, and you'll see in a later slide, you'll build up a diverse group of individuals that make up your design team for the human-centered design process. We have these cross-spectrum talents, and we come to the table to kind of fill in gaps. For example, I would speak to the accessibility. That is a law, that is a requirement that we must meet. So we already kind of shoulder that responsibility for the users when we're designing. And there's a set of standards that we follow to ensure that the IT solution is accessible, again, to all those who are under targeted disabilities. All right, I think moving on. The last I was talking about, so let's go back one more slide. Ideate. The human-centered design process is a continuous ideation of improvements. But once we get to the ideation stage, this is where we are going to develop the solution. As you see in the slide, it's going to be with that diverse group to encourage and avoid premature judgment. This is so that all ideas are fresh, all ideas get on the table. Once we pick that quote unquote best solution, we start creating a low fidelity mock-up or representation of what that solution is. That's something that we want to present to the user community, a test group, so that we can get feedback. As you see, prototype and test. We'll gather the feedback. We'll see what works, what doesn't work, where we need to tweak and refinements. If all items have been satisfied, we'll then move to the implementation. That's where we hand off to a develop group, where they will develop, build, and then put the product into production. Once in production, we still have a continuous improvement process. We gather feedback from the users in real time to see where we can improve the product. As I said, human-centered design is iterative. So we start our discovery phase. Again, we're learning about the user, their needs. We move into the define. We start to problem solve. We ideate. If at this point we're unsure, we'll go back to the beginning in the discovery phase to gather more questions and understanding. If we pass on to prototyping and test, we have two paths we're going to take for feedback loops. The tweaking of the prototype, if there are technical changes that are needed, pixels, colors, functionality. However, we will go back to the discovery phase if we are, as the team, don't really understand our users. So this is this iterative process we're speaking about. Once we have satisfied those requirements, we'll move to implement. And then again, there's a continuous feedback loop for continuous process improvement. Incorporating the human-centered design, and I spoke about this, we want to get a diverse team. We can't develop an innovative solution with one skill set. We need a cross-function of various backgrounds, expertise, and perspectives. We'll take that team, we'll go out, conduct our research, observations, gather data, come back to iterate, right? This is where we kind of synthesize the information, come up with our themes, our common problem. And again, this is really repetitive, prototyping and testing. Ultimately, these 6 points will help us build some empathy for the users, understanding their environment, their needs. All right, this is a kind of a high-level generic case study for a local government. The background was a local government wanted to improve its communication engagement with its citizens. So what it did is it pretty much commissioned a group to go out and find a application that would provide ease of use, would provide accessible information for users. And what they wanted was a mobile app. So going through the phases of the case study, the design team went out, they conducted their interviews with focus groups, right? They talked to a wide range of citizens, right? Residents of various backgrounds, digital literacy, ages, right? The point of this was to understand the user's frustrations, their preferences, their expectations, concerns. When we move into phase 2, that research highlighted common pain points, right? Difficulty finding relevant information, lack of clarity, service offerings, limited channels providing feedback for the users. The users within this particular community had no voice to provide feedback to their local community or local government. The team also identified a need for that app that would offer user-friendly interface, comprehensive information, and interactive features. The team once got together and they started to ideate. This is where they came up with various ideas and concepts. They considered user-friendly interface, personalized notifications, easy access to government services. What does that mean? Well, there was no need or means to access information, so making this app available potentially would provide an ease of access to services. And the key thing that they looked at was the feedback mechanism for the users. Prototyping, they built the low fidelity mock-up of the app and put it in front of the users to test. The prototypes included the features that they sought during the ideation phase: request form, event calendars, live chat support, and easily searchable knowledge base. These are addressing all the pain points that were found in the discovery phase. Once that's built, it was put in front of the users in a small group. The team observed how the users interacted with the app. They collected feedback and identified areas of improvement. That next phase, the group took that feedback, analyzed it, and made necessary changes to hand off to the development team to build the conceptual idea to a real world application. Some key results from this case study. The government did receive positive feedback from citizens. They were able to develop and design the user-friendly interface. And it encouraged, the key thing, it encouraged user engagement, and there was sustainability of use. Okay. The live chat feature definitely gave the users a voice to provide feedback. All right, in a nutshell, I have this slide up for you to kind of read over. Are there any questions on the case study?
I'm assuming, Joe, that this bears any resemblance that this bears to an actual municipality is purely coincidence.
John, I'm glad you said that. There was and it's similar to some solutions I've seen worked on. So this is more of a mock scenario. However, it does resonate with real world solutions, banking apps to emergency management communication systems.
Mike.
You're very fond of the phrase pain points.
Yeah. That. Oh, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, pain points was something that like requirements was drilled into me. Yes, pain points, the users, as we go along a journey as a user, right? Or what is it that frustrates me along that journey? Where do I find challenges, obstacles? What's stopping me from obtaining satisfaction of completing a task? So those are the pain point. Yes, is a common term that we use.
So when you're doing your research and when you're getting feedback, whatever the method, whether it's survey or focus group or interview or observation, there's a priority to noticing what is causing people pain. Is that correct?
Yes. So what we do is I love what you said about the different means of how we would gather that information when we're looking at our users. So we can go back and do qualitative or quantitative research. What we like to do is when we're observing a user, we kind of listen, watch over the shoulder. We listen for frustrations, triggers as a user's using a product. We look at surveys, we look at commonality of trends, and we kind of assess that information. For us, the basic question is, what task are you trying to accomplish? How are you accomplishing it today? And what challenges are you met with the current tool that you have? Those are three basic questions that I would ask, and then observe, watch, and then bring that information back to the team and then share with the team as each individual may have observed or reviewed their users during their groups. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be what's distinctive about this human-centered design process to me, and it seems like a good focus. I'm old, I get frustrated all the time, and I would love to have people who work in design help me get past my pain points. I think it's a neat integrating concept.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that comment, sir. I'm just really going to say this: human-centered design is not a complex process, right? It is really understanding your users, going through an iterative process of understanding the user, collecting that information, building upon that, and then seeing if you met their needs, right? I mean, it's easier said than done. For me, I get it. It's not complicated. So just imagine a group of, how do I want to say this? If I have a younger user group only developing something for a wide audience, we're probably not going to get the best solution, right? So that speaks, that's going to speak to having a diverse team. We really have to understand the users. You mentioned a different demographic may have understanding of technology different. There may be difference in lingo, concepts of ideas, how business is done. So does that make sense, sir?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're being nice to me. I'm a digital migrant, not a digital native, and I get frustrated very fast. And I would love it if designers and tech support were attuned to my special needs, as it were. And I'm not trying to make a pun. I recognize special needs has a specific meaning with respect to disability, and I totally respect that. But if you're trying to get the people of Arlington to make heavier and more efficient and more effective use of IT affordances, I think having a team that focuses on their pain points would be a very good idea.
So, Mike, this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring this topic to the Tech Commission, right? Because in the commercial space, businesses get to pick their market segment. They get to decide as part of their business strategy who they're going after, and they don't have to go after everybody. They can pick, socioeconomic demographics, age ranges, right? They can pick their market segment for their product. Government is a product and a set of products and services that has to be for everybody, right? And so I think it's all the more important for governments to be using human-centered design when designing their services, because there's a diversity of experience out there, there's a diversity of perspectives out there, and the team that's actually implementing the thing or designing the thing doesn't have all that experience. And if you don't have a rigorous approach to go understand your customers and understand the people that you're delivering these services for, you're going to make a whole bunch of assumptions that are wrong, and you're going to spend money on things that don't work very well because you didn't understand your users' needs. So
I think that's a really important distinction, because I first learned the phrase pain points from listening to marketers, and they want to increase pain points to no, it's true, to close the sale. And this is a different domain of life, as you've just said. So any process that sets out to ameliorate, to identify and reduce pain points, as opposed to identify and sharpen them until you're desperate to buy the product, I think that's really good.
Jackie, you get your hand up?
Yes. I'm sorry, I have so many questions. So would a potential application be to look at a website during development, or to look at a website after development, to see if people navigate the site the way it was intended, or if there are issues in navigation? And of course, I raise that with the follow-up question to our DTS folks is that something that's been part of the website development process, or is it something that we might want to be considering, now that we've reached the fixing the link stage? I mean, we've gone beyond the fixing the link stage.
Joe, you want to jump in on that? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Norm.
Yeah, so no, it's fine. So we do have some folks actually on Richard's team, working with some other teams to address some of the accessibility issues for enhancements, specifically to that point. So there is a project that we have working that right now.
Joe, you want to jump on that in a generic sense?
Yes, and so as I understood, the first question is really we're talking about navigating a site. And so at the beginning, Let me even back up there. We may find a problem, like there may not be a tech solution, right? There may be nothing. We're starting from scratch, right? So we find that there's a problem. We have a need we need to fill and satisfy. We kind of gather our requirements. How are people doing things today without tech solution? We gather that information as a team, we bring it back, and then we, as a cross-function team, start to develop this new IT solution, be it a website, a web app, be it a pamphlet, literature, right? So what we'll talk this app. We put together these mock-ups, what we think, and you have a team of designers, information architectures that start to build this prototype. How would a user journey through this app? So there is a phase that we go through when we start developing the screenshots of a particular page. We want to make sure that we can navigate smoothly through. Once we get those prototypes, again, we test with users to start fine tuning. So there's two things. You can come from a solution that exists to improve upon. So if there's an existing IT solution and you want to build upon that, you have users test it, you find out their feedback, how things aren't working, or you start from scratch where you're developing from ground up. And as you do that, you're going through this iterative process as you're testing. And does that answer your question, ma'am?
Sorry, I'm slow on the button. Yes, it does. And of course, our inside team answered the question, which was where I was getting at, is this sounds great. And how when you look at our Arlington, some of our Arlington systems that interface with the public, is this something that we incorporate into our process?
Yes, and I'm glad you said that. Let me get to my slides here. Sorry about that. So the challenges of human-centered design. The challenges of human-centered design, as all projects, there's limited funds. There's going to be time constraints, and there's going to be resistance to change, right? And so those are some of the challenges that we're faced as we start going through the human-centered design process. And we try to, as best as we can, address all needs with the time we have, with the funds available, with the resources available, right? And hopefully this second bullet point, the long-term benefits will clearly outweigh or should outweigh these obstacles. So human-centered design focuses on users. We're trying to capture and bringing satisfaction to the users, reduce risk, foster innovation, and promote empathy. Steve Jobs said it well. Let's remember that design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. And I have a list of some references within this slide presentation. There are some good reading references of material for those who are interested. John, I turn it back to you.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions for Joe before we take the discussion to the commission?
Hey, so this is Prescott. So I heard talk about an app. I don't know. Can you provide more context on what the app is in relation to ACD or anybody? Sorry.
I think it's just example. It's just a make-believe example, Prescott, to kind of show you how human-centered design would play into the process. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah. So it really was a generic. It was a generic app that would be that I was using as an example. One thing I did have a link to some real world kind of case studies that I did provide in the slides as well. Let me see if I can get those notes pulled up, and then I'll screen share some of those if you want to see. But other than that, yeah, the app was fictitious, right? During my course of study, when I was coming through design school at George Washington, we were given a problem set. You have a community that you're trying to solve a problem for, and then you go out and you go through this human-centered design process and phase and collect information, meet the users, talk to the users. You go back, synthesize, build, develop, test. And I went from what I thought was just going to be a website that ended up moving to a mobile app, right? We found that the website was obsolete based on the big push to mobile devices. Right? Does that make sense, sir?
It does. Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions for Joe? All right. Joe, really appreciate you coming and joining tonight and sharing the good news about human-centered design. I think the broader we can spread it, the better. You're welcome to hang out and listen and contribute to the conversation. But you have fulfilled your promise to me to come and brief us tonight. So I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, John.
All right. So I think, the challenges that Joe laid out for human-centered design are very real. For organizations that are not design native organizations, explaining and getting leadership buy-in about prioritizing resources to bring design resources and make human-centered design a normal part of operations is difficult, and it's the first hurdle. Because, I try and practice human-centered design, but I'm not an expert. And there's a difference between experts who have been trained and do it all the time, and people who are practitioners and are trying to use the techniques, but maybe aren't that expert. I would say, from my experience, the most valuable piece of it is the stuff that you don't build and waste money on, because you find out early that it's not going to work the way you want it to work. I don't know, Miranda, does that line up with your experience?
100%. Sometimes when you take this approach, you end up like 90 degrees or even 180 from where you thought you needed to be. I think a lot of the people talk about the problem to solve, right? So if you start there rather than what you think you need to build, but you actually spend the time doing a lot of this research and discovery that we've been discussing, you end up with something that sometimes looks nothing like what you originally thought it would be, but it's going to save you. You won't have to revise, and you are going to start from where you really need to start to make your consumer happy.
Yeah. So I think, I don't really have anything else other than I think we should probably advocate that the board support human-centered design practices. This is relatively new to government. The Biden administration recently released the executive order on customer experience. So government's starting to catch up.
Hey, John, can I talk to that real quick?
Yeah, please.
So I'm getting ahead of what does DTS have for the group. So as some of you may have seen, we have actually advertised, it's out there right now, there's an announcement for a chief customer experience officer. So it is focused on exactly everything was briefed this evening. So we created that role. It's a division chief level role. So it's an executive role that's going to take all the most customer facing teams in DTS, and they're all under this individual. So we are heading towards that direction. Everything is being heard. We've heard this before. This is based off of some of the research I did when I initially came on board as deputy director, and just moving forward with that. So county managers bought off on it. We've created the role, and it's out there. Just wanted to go ahead and pass that on.
That's amazing. I didn't even realize that. Good work.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
All right. Well, fantastic. Anyone else have any comments before we close the human-centered design topic? Joe?
Yeah, one thing, when I was looking up, I forgot it was Arlington. I'm from Fairfax, John, or was from Fairfax. So, but I was looking at your strategic goals, and your strategic goal speaks to and touches on human-centered design. It doesn't come out and say it explicitly, but it does speak to the basic premise of human-centered design.
Yeah.
Just food for thought.
Absolutely, and that's the basis or premise rather where I'm moving forward with creating that new role to focus on that aspect.
That's awesome. Maybe we can get the rest of the help encourage the rest of the county government to adopt some of these practices as well, because I think you know, oftentimes what you find is there's not a technical solution to the problem that your users have in IT, and it's really there are non-technical solutions to how other things are organized that can really break down barriers for the people involved. Jackie?
Yes, a personal experience. I'm working as an SME, but in a different area, not that area. So more of a practitioner on the development of a mobile app that is an emergency notification app that's combined with preparedness. And that's an example of where you absolutely have to see how those dynamics work for people to know whether or not you're going to have any synergy between alerts and preparedness, for example. And it's the kind of thing where you're talking about the audiences you're trying to reach. If they find something difficult, they don't ever go back to it. So, and they don't use the app then either. So what might seem subtle can be all or nothing issues for many users.
Mike?
It seems to me a great way to sell something new like this is through a demonstration project. And by a demonstration project, I mean gathering a few Arlington citizens and members of the board and finding one or two of these experts and leading them through a design review process of one particular aspect of the Arlington website. Demonstration is the best teacher.
I agree. Joe, you want to add something?
Yeah, this will be my last comment, John, promise. So the young lady who just spoke on her personal experience, I can say coming on to my agency, the government agency, we took a supply chain solution from pen and paper, and you had a user community who was so set on using their pen, paper, their Excel spreadsheets, and not using the solution we were developing. So it was challenging to have that change management was really a hard process. So getting your right executives on board early is definitely going to be key, in my opinion. That was one thing, John, I wanted to add.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, I think we might take a crack at writing something up, supporting the customer experience position, Norrin, and the county government's moving, the manager's move in that direction, to let the board know that we're in agreement with that. That always helps. Other than that, I think we can close this member item of the agenda item and move hopefully to see the U.S. Women's World Cup team defeat the Netherlands starting at 9 p.m. tonight. I do have from Frank his legislative update. Let me pull that up. Congratulations to Arlington again, having been named the #1 digital county for 2023 by the Center for Digital Government and the National Association of Counties in the 150,000 to 250,000 population category. Congratulations, Norrin, to you and your team. Comcast and Verizon were top-level sponsors of Net Inclusion, the premier national digital equity conference organized by the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. The FCC is partnering with the U.S. Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, and State Attorney General to launch Operation Stop Scam Calls to fight junk calls to protect consumers. The city of Baltimore announced implementation of its next generation emergency 911 program, incorporating advanced AI technology to automatically translate texts into 140 languages using advanced geomapping. The FCC is proposing a voluntary labeling program to help consumers determine the cybersecurity of smart or internet-connected devices. And the White House has released its implementation plan for a national cybersecurity strategy, featuring 65 high-impact initiatives for federal agencies to follow. And the last one, which was a follow-up rip from the headlines. The FCC Chairman Rosenworcel proposes a national goal of 100% access to affordable broadband. The agency issued a notice of intent. The chairwoman proposes that the commission consider several crucial characteristics of broadband deployment, including affordability, adoption, availability, and equitable access when determining whether broadband is being deployed in a reasonable and timely fashion to all Americans. In addition, focusing on a universal service standard, the notice of inquiry proposes to increase the national fixed broadband standard to 100 megabits per second for download and 20 megabits per second for upload, and proposes a separate national goal of 1 gigabit per second down, 500 megabits per second for the future. So heading in the direction of which that's nice. It aligns with the broadband, the study that feasibility study and needs study that we were briefed on, I believe last month. So 100% access to affordable broadband. And that is the legislative update. Any questions or items from anybody else before we move to a DTS update?
I sent you something, but it would not go before DTS.
Okay. I saw that, Jackie. I wanted to follow up with you offline about that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. DTS update, Norrin, Richard, have anything to share?
So nothing further other than what I passed about the Chief Experience Officer announcement that's out there. And again, as you stole the thunder for the Digital County Survey Award. So that's all I had to pass. All good. Thanks, everyone.
Well, Mr. Hurley stole the thunder when he posted it on LinkedIn, so.
Okay, true.
All right. I don't know that we got the meeting minutes circulated from last week. That's last month. That's probably my fault for the administrative delay.
Actually, I think they were circulated. I think they went from me to everyone. You asked me to send them to everyone, and I think I did.
Well, thank you. Does everyone feel comfortable voting on the minutes from?
They may not have looked at them, but I'm pretty sure I sent them.
From June.
Yes, because I got a thank you from a couple of members, so I know it went to people. Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, or do we want to defer?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Right, we have a motion. Second. Jim Smith seconds. All in favor? Aye.
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 Gary? No. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Gary, I don't think I got a recorded vote for you. Do you? All right. Gary might be having some technical difficulties. We will leave him as not voting. The minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0. Anything for good of the order? Nope. All right, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Thanks, Mike. Do we have a second? Jim.
Second, off mute. I'll second that.
A second.
Oh, all right. We'll take Miranda's second because she got off mute first. All in favor? Aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. As a reminder, we are skipping August. We'll see you all again in September. Have a good summer, folks. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
Aye.
Hey, John, can you send me a copy of the crap? Did he drop? Drop, didn't he? All right, see you all.